The new DCU is officially underway. Creature Commandos on animation, Peacemaker on streaming, Superman in theaters, and an entire slate of projects ready for 2026. But what if I told you that the new James Gunn DC universe was sold to another company? Well, that reality seems more likely than not nowadays, because Warner Brothers Discovery has officially announced that they are up for sale just 3.5 years after the massive merger between Warner Media and Discovery Inc. And the entire entertainment industry is holding their breath. Now, there's a lot of rumors flying around, a lot of headlines being dropped, a lot of questions about what happens next. So in this video, we're going to break down what's happening at Warner Brothers Discovery and how it could impact the new DCU. Earlier this year, WBD announced that they would be splitting into two separate factions. One of them, studio and streaming. That's going to be your HBO, your Warner Brothers Studios, your DC Studios, and their entire library of legendary IP. And then another section for global networks. That's going to be your CNN, TNT Sports, Discovery Channel, and their entire linear cable package. The split was supposed to happen next time in 2026, but things began to escalate. Earlier this month, WBD announced that they've received unsolicited offers from multiple companies, offers large enough for them to put the for sale sign in the yard, and they are officially on the market. Now, the company is searching what they call strategic alternatives, which means a merger, a split sale, or some combination of the two. But one thing is for sure, something is going to change, and it's going to happen relatively soon. Right now, Paramount seems to be the leader in the clubhouse, reportedly already offering a sale of $60 billion, which was turned down. There's also been news that Comcast might be in the mix, trying to combine it with NBC Universal. There's also some rumors that some big streaming tech agencies like Netflix might also be interested. Now, that's a lot less likely because Netflix has always said that they would rather build than buy, but never say never in 2025. Regardless, WBD's up for sale, and the vultures are circling the wagons, and the network executives are listening to offers. Now, here's the thing. Nothing like this happens overnight. This is going to begin a slow drip of headlines and details and reports as we learn bit by bit what is exactly going on, who's interested, and who is a realistic companion for this sale. The earliest anything could be announced with something like this would be around mid-2026, and even then there's red tape and crossroads and details to be fleshed out before anything becomes official. Mid-2026, the earliest that something would get announced, but it would not really take into effect for another year or so. And if you're sitting there thinking there's no way a big company like Warner Brothers Discovery would sell to another media business, why would they try to merge? We are just 6 years removed from Disney purchasing 21st Century Fox and changing the media landscape forever. A move that The Simpsons predicted in 1998, 21 years ago. It's poetry, it rhymes. This is a big, scary move for Hollywood that could potentially impact how we watch movies and TV for the next decade and beyond. But for fans like us, if you're here on the ScreenRant YouTube page, there's only one question you're wondering. What does this mean for James Gunn's new DC universe? First, the good news. These types of things take time, which means that the immediate future of the DCU is largely safe, meaning the 2026 slate should remain untouched. That's good news for fans of Lanterns on HBO, James Watkins' Clayface movie, or the upcoming Supergirl movie starring Millie Alcock, the next major comic book movie set to release by either of the major studios. Also, because the wheels are turning, things are in motion, the Superman sequel Man of Tomorrow, starring David Corenswet and Nicholas Hoult as Supes and Lex Luthor respectively, should be well underway and ideally not affected by any of this news. So if you're worried about the DCU hype train being derailed by all of this, breathe easy, deep breath. We should be just fine for another year or two. Now here's why you should panic. This could be a major impact to everything that James Gunn has begun to build at DC Studios. Because what happens after 2026? What happens when this news comes out and everything shakes down? James Gunn has spent the last 2 years rebuilding the DC brand on streaming and in theaters, recapturing the magic of the blue brand for comic book fans, and finally rivaling what we've gotten in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the 2010s. Let's recap what went down in the DCEU during that time. Zack Snyder had his original vision. The studio kind of didn't love it. Tragedy took Zack Snyder away from Justice League. Henry Cavill grew a mustache. The Rock said he was going to fix the DCEU. Then he didn't. Then the internet cult got their way and we got the Snyder Cut, a 4-hour movie on HBO Max. Gal Gadot asked Pedro Pascal to give her the stone, and the DCEU limped off to the sidelines, dead forever.
I need you to give me the stone. What happened to it?
So when James Gunn was announced to reboot and relaunch the DC Universe, there was hope. People were excited. It's the greatest comic book director of all time taking a shot at DC Studios. And if you don't agree, at Matt Roembke, I'd love to talk to you about it. Then it started working. Creature Commandos, a surprise hit. Peacemaker, a household name. And David Corenswet gave us the best Superman this century. Again, at Matt Roembke, come find me. I would love to talk about it. The foundation was strong. The vision was clear. There was a 10-year roadmap from James Gunn to improve and enhance the DCU. But that roadmap might come into a corporate crossroads, and the hierarchy of the DC Universe could change forever. Now, if WBD only sells off the global network side of things, that's going to be your linear cable package, the DC Studios should be mostly untouched and nothing changes. That's the best case scenario we're looking at here. But if the studio and streaming services are sold to another studio, it could change everything. If a legacy company like Paramount or Comcast buys it, they might want to play it more safe. Focus on big money-making entities that are guaranteed at the box office, like Batman, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely a huge step away from this brand new, exciting, out-of-nowhere DCU that James Gunn has promised with characters that most fans have probably never heard of. Now, if a streaming service ends up getting into play, if Netflix, Apple, or Amazon ends up buying the DC Studios side of things, that could change everything completely. We could be looking at a DCU that only focuses on bingeable serial content. And it could be a situation where the DCU is largely told on streaming, which, could be a cool thing, but somebody go ask Bob Chapek how that went over at Disney. This type of sale could trigger a lot of things: leadership changes, budget cuts, cost-saving entities that could trickle down and impact everybody's plan. James Gunn mentioned he's got a plan beyond Man of Tomorrow for the DCU, but in a recent interview with Boba Talks, he also threw in a little sprinkle. Whether it's me that's executing that plan remains on a lot of things, and that fairly raised a lot of eyebrows. Because whatever happens, Gunn and Peter Safran need to abide by whatever the new owner's goals are. And that could change a lot of what we're excited about in the DCU. Because all it takes is one ownership change to turn this brand new comic book universe into one of the worst things it could be, a big old what if. It's what happened at DCEU. Zack Snyder had an idea and things changed. The studio changed their mind, and that thing derailed. The DCEU taught us how fragile these movie universes can really be. For all of its highs and lows, it was objectively a mess in DCEU, and the DCU was supposed to change that. A sale like this could bring that mess right back to the forefront, and we could be back at square one. At the end of the day, it all depends on what gets sold, who it gets sold to, and if that person or company buying that right to DC Studios will let James Gunn cook. Hopefully, WBD holds on to DC Studios, and if not, hopefully, James Gunn gets to finish what he started. And if not, hopefully, James Gunn gets his Twitter fingers going, and he tells us exactly what's happening, why it's happening, and who we should blame. Because this deserves a chance, and now that chance is in threat. It's hanging in the balance. And if there's one thing that Lucasfilm taught us about these studios buying other studios, mergers are built on hope. I'm Matt Roembke. Until then, see you next time.